Afternoon, everybody. This is Anthony from Amped Airsoft, and I got my bow buddy,
Biggs.
And today we're going to be going over a new thing that we have. What is this new thing, Biggs?
We have an SLP rebuild and replacement parts kit.
This guy right here.
Yes.
So, what is in the kit?
The kit includes all of the internal parts, which has the O-rings on it, all the extra springs, and as well as the top plastic body, in case you have any damage and like cracks or parts like that. It does not include the metal base or the plug or the cap, but it does include everything else that comes with the regulator body itself.
All right. So, what would you need this for?
You would need this for, as I said, any external damage that happens to the plastic body of your kit, as in down where the screws crack, or if for some horrible reason you fall on your regulator and this body cracks while it's under pressure, or over long-term use, if some of the O-rings start to go in it, or if some of the springs start to go, if you have a lot of variation in your FPS, like a 20 FPS variant, sometimes that can be due to your springs getting a little old and wore out.
All right, cool. So in this video, what we're going to do, we're going to take a SLP air rig apart and replace it with some new guts. So you're going to be seeing Biggs' hands here in about 2-3 seconds. Take it away. All right, Biggs, take it away. So what do we have sitting in front of us?
Okay, so this is one of our SLP regulators set up with a dual QD and our new UFA, which also, let me just say real quick, these are our new custom UFA plugs. They're nice and nifty. They're basically for storage and transportation. So if you use one of the features of our UFA, you can take the cap off and use it as a thread saver. You don't have to worry about your pin falling out because it's just in there with the surface tension of the lubrication and the O-ring. So you can just put the plug in there if I can't fumble it. And you don't have to worry about your pin falling out.
All right, gravy. So, what tools do we need to do this?
Really, the only tool that you need is a screwdriver. A picky tool might come in handy, but you don't need it.
A little pick, a little hook?
Yeah. Really, all you need is a Phillips head. Not sure which size, but it's about an average size.
Okay,
and you will need the gun salve tech tee. That'll be to relubricate the kit because the kit comes to you dry.
All right, so what comes in the kit?
The kit comes with, as I said before, the main plastic body with the base O-ring on it, and then the top assembly. This is the part that you actually adjust in and out, and then the plate that it's attached to, and then the spring that's under that. And under that is the main plunger with the O-ring on it, and below that is the base plate with the O-ring on it, and below that will be the base, the reset spring, and the base for that, as well as the 4 screws that attach the body.
All right, Biggs, take that busted hoopty SLP rig apart and show everybody how to put it back together.
Okay, so we put all our parts to the side. And you start disassembly. I take the cap off. It's not necessary, but it allows you to adjust it any if you need to, or so you can sort of push this out once you get it apart. I generally like to take the screws out opposite of each other, and if you don't really feel any tension, push it up from the big heavy spring until you get to the last screw. So I try to hold down opposite of it so that you don't put any torque on the plastic body. So right here, you're going to see it lift a little bit on this side since this is the last screw. And I'm going to put pressure down there. You can feel the whole body rise up as you unscrew that part. And it's free. You can lift it off. It shouldn't really shoot apart, but be aware that there are springs here and in here. But once you push down here, it'll all pop out. It'll be pretty greasy. There's some white lubrication in there. I believe is very similar to some of the white lubricants they use inside of a gearbox. It's a little bit thicker than the Tech T-guns have, but I use this anytime I rebuild them and it works just fine. So there you have your plunger, your main spring, and then the adjustment set, and the main plastic body. And under here is where maybe sometimes a picky tool comes in handy.
Success!
So once that pops out, it does have a nice tight seal there, because that is where your source air comes in here, comes up, gets distributed by that cap, and then goes into your 3 outputs through that U-shape. Really the only parts that I've seen that need replaced, this is the most common one. This little spring is the weakest one out of the set, and it gets worn out. I see it get worn out a lot from heavy semi-auto use, because it's going up and down more than just staying in one position and closing. So, and then our new kit over here, we can start to put back in as we lubricate it. Now you want to lubricate it, but you don't want to put too much on it, because excessive lubrication and under lubrication both create faulty FPS variants, or excessive FPS variants. So you can do this by hand. Just make sure to wash your hands afterwards, because it's silicone based, or you can use some sort of applicant like a Q-tip or something like that. So, you don't really need it much on this bottom spring. I like to put a little bit just anywhere where there's parts moving together. Just a slight layering. But the spring goes in first, and then seal stuff. The base goes on top of that, and that's what's pushing up on the base plate, where you're going to want a little bit of lubrication around the O-ring, and then a little bit around the edges where it's moving inside the body. And then there is a notch in this, which lines up with a notch on the body. Is usually by the gauge side if it's built by us, and that'll sit up there. And you'll see up here on the second level there's a little tab right here, and that's going to line up on the plunger, or on the plastic body, not on the plunger. There's a cutout for that, so whenever you put that on, that gives you which way it's oriented. And then on the plunger, you're going to want to relubricate that across the O-ring. And then this is a case by case on the inside of here. Since these are dry, or if you have an undamaged one, you can use your old one, leave the lubrication in there. But we're just going to do a full replacement. So you're going to want to relubricate the body you have. And this is where you can get a little bit thicker. You don't want to glob it on there, but you want to have some in there for it to ride up and down against.
Yeah, ride.
I knew that was coming.
I got no chill.
But there's sort of a ridge on the inside of there. You want to see it a little bit on there, a little bit of excess in there. I'm using it with my hands, so I'm getting all over everything. It's also good to have a towel for this. But once you get that done, then you're going to want to assemble the adjustment keys and lubricate it up a little bit as well. You don't need to do the square side. Thank you. It's good to have a system.
Excelsior!
You don't need to lubricate the square side. You might want to lubricate the threads a little bit since it's metal on metal. Slippery hand. It is also reverse of what normal threading is. Left.
Counterclockwise.
Yes, thank you.
Counterclockwise.
Spring, the main body spring, in just like the other spring, I like to put a little bit anywhere where it's going to be a metal piece on a metal piece, or at least two parts against two parts. Put that in there. reassembly sometimes, it's easier to put this back in here. There's no orientation marks on the plunger, so whenever you get back on the base plate. Like I said, there's your notch, and there's your plug. Pop all that down, and then we can go ahead and do our reassembly, or retightening. You need to push the base down to where it's flush with the body so that you can get your screws back in. There's no specific order, but just like taking apart, I like to do one corner and then the diagonal corner to it. Okay. So that was a full replacement of everything that comes with the kit. Now you might not have to do all of it. You might only need a piece or two. Like I said, if you want to try out replacing the tiny bottom spring, that could be effective, or the large one, or if you have an O-ring that goes bad, those are all things, or the plastic body if you have some damage on that. Even if it's just a little chip off here where the screw mounts in, or major crackers or damage like that. Pressurized system, so anytime I see a crack on them, I'm always first to change it out. So, but that's the full replacement for it.
Cool beans.
And then what I would suggest also is the bag they come in. Go ahead and throw all the other parts you have back in that bag, and that way you can keep them if you have any extra O-rings on them.
All right, everybody. So that has been a Pleb to Pro with our new SLP rebuild kit. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them down below in the doobly-doo, or ask them on our Facebook, or send questions to sales@ampedairsoft.com. This has been Anthony
and Biggs.
Check out all of our social media jazz, and we'll catch you guys later.